Restaurant Unstoppable. Inspire, empower, and transform the industry. And with excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, entrepreneur, podcast host, and hospitality consultant, and director of Mirables and Green Hills Grill, Brandon Styll. My man, Brandon, are you feeling unstoppable today?
I'm feeling unstoppable, yeah.
Yeah, man, I cannot wait to get into this story. And we actually met by way of your podcast. I said you're a podcast host, but that's a Nashville Restaurant Radio. We do very similar types of podcasts, which is making me very excited because I don't get to talk to other people that do very similar things to what I do. Like lots of other podcasters out there, but not so specific to like subject matter. And you're like even more specific than I am because you're really hyper focused on Nashville. You go outside of Nashville, but
I do briefly from time to time.
Yeah.
When I meet somebody who's really interesting from another state and I just kind of want to hear their perspective, I call them and, hey, let's do an interview. I'd love to share your perspective from your market with my listeners in Nashville. And I have a lot of fun with it. But thanks for having me. I think that you were one of the people who I originally started listening to when I first started podcasting, and you actually reached out to me just randomly. I don't know what platform it was on. You said, hey, man, I checked out your podcast. It's really good. And I was like on the floor, like, oh, my gosh.
You know, it's funny.
The guy knows who I am.
It's funny that you mentioned that. Like, I try to make it a point to one of the biggest lessons that I've learned as a podcast host is that it's always studying restaurateurs. It's always the restaurateurs that are welcoming of new business or welcoming of people who others would say my competition, but the best restaurateurs are collaborators. They know 100%. That they can't do it alone, and they build community around themselves. And that's a person to reach out to in the future and say, hey, what did you do for this? Or I have this challenge. Do you have this challenge? And you go so much further together. So I made it a point early on to reach out to new podcasters to open the door, to say, hey, I'm not your competition. Like, we can go much further together.
Well, you know, on your thing here, it says melting pot of mentors. And as far as people in the podcasting world for myself, hey, I don't know how to do advertising. I would reach out to you, and you were so willing to kind of give me some advice here and there. So, I mean, a big thank you for all that you've done to help me. And I just did my 200th episode.
Congratulations.
Came out today.
The pleasure is mine. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What a something worth celebrating right there. You're actually celebrating something else in like 3 days, which is really exciting. Maybe a little teaser to what will be discussed later, but
sure. Yeah. 3 days. October 28th is 2 years sober. No alcohol, no mind altering substances, nothing for 2 whole years.
Congratulations. I cannot say that myself, but congratulations, man. Good for you. And we'll get into that. We haven't even gotten into the success quote or mantra, but I'm feeling jacked up already. So we got to get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
All right. I quote this way too often to people who tell me that they can't do something. And Henry Ford said, if you think you can do a thing or think you can't do a thing, you're right. And I'm just all about mindset, man. I wake up every day. Monday's my favorite day. And I come into morning to work Monday morning and I'm jacked up and I'm like, it's Monday, guys. Here we go. Let's do it. And everybody's like, dude, what are you on? And I'm like, it's the first day of the week. We can accomplish so much this week. It's like, I get around to Friday and I'm like, oh shit, I have to finish everything I haven't finished yet. But Monday, man, I have so much to look forward to. So I think everything is about the power of your mind. And whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And that's just something that I tell people when they say, oh, I can't possibly do that. And I go, really? I guess if that's your thought, then you can't. So,
well, I mean, there's science behind this. And like, I think I reference this a lot in the podcast. You probably already know where I'm going with this if you're a regular listener, but your frontal lobe shuts off when you say, I can't, or it's not possible. That creative part of your mind, just because it's a huge energy suck. That part of your mind is like, it's a huge energy suck.
It is.
So the natural reaction for your brain is to like save energy, and like you can choose that it's not possible. Then your mind just goes, phew, don't have to worry about that. But if you say this is possible, how is it possible? And you start asking yourself how, that frontal lobe kicks into hyperdrive, and like it just starts figuring things out. It just starts looking at like the creativity kicks in. Creativity is expensive though. It is.
Yeah, you can ask the owner of our restaurants about that. He's fully aware. We have a book that we have. It's kind of required reading around here. It's called QBQ, The Question Behind the Question. It's by a guy named John G. Miller. I've had him on my podcast twice.
I actually saw a quick reference, like a video clip of that.
He's amazing. And what he does is that same sort of thing, is that it's about taking away victim thoughts. You say, how come my food always comes out cold? How come nobody ever busses my tables? How come I never get sat the good tables? Your brain immediately starts feeling like a victim. There's things how come I never get the good parking space? Whatever it might be in your life, whatever victim if you're asking yourself questions where they is in that question, immediately your brain starts thinking that something happened to you as a reason why you can't. And the question behind the question changes your brain to think, what can I do?
What do I have control over?
Yeah. So, hey, how come nobody ever runs my food? What can I do to ensure my food gets ran? You insert yourself into the question. What can I do to ensure that my food comes out hot? What can I do to ensure that I get the best tables? What can I do? And our mission here at these restaurants is, what can I do to make every guest a repeat guest?
What can I do to make my vision into reality?
Yeah.
My dream into reality? Just putting it out there, right? Like, listening to you talk is reminding me of a recent guest we had, Mel Harrington, who literally just put it out there to one of our customers. Like, this is what I want to do. I know you're somebody who can help me. There's a good chance you won't, but if there is a slight chance you can, then you'll never know unless I say something right now. What can I do right now? What can I do? Right?
What can I do right now? Put yourself into the solution and go for it.
Yeah. And because of that, he bought her a house and barn.
Wow.
Right? Because she was able to find a win-win situation, and that frontal lobe kicked into hypergear, and they made it happen. But I think we're driving home the point.
Yeah, it's all about mindset, and I think every day, I used to have a boss says, what sucks you out of the sheets? And that's one of those things that, like, what is exciting for you? Like, what makes you want to get up and get going for the day? And I think you got to find a job that you love. And I think for people like us, I can talk about restaurant shit for hours. That's just concepts, what we're doing, how you're doing it. I love hearing creativity, just your perspective. But I could talk restaurant stuff
I think we're going to kick the can back and forth pretty good today.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this conversation. You did say you had 2 quotes, and I don't want to sell you short.
It's along the same lines. Failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently. Yet another Henry Ford quote.
Yeah.
But one of the things I tell people here is that when they hire, I had the best interview ever with a kid who never waited tables before. And he looked at me and he said, I said, you never wait tables. Is that going to be like, what are your biggest challenges? He goes, look, I'm going to make mistakes. I can tell you right now, I'm going to make a lot of mistakes, but I never make the same mistake twice.
I wish I could say that.
I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn from my mistakes every single day. And I just thought, like, wow, I would hire that person any day of the week, because I encourage people to make mistakes. That's how it lets me know you're alive. Lets me know you're trying. You're stepping outside of your comfort zone because you're trying something. You're going to make a mistake. And when you turn around and say, that one's on me, I did that, and I'm going to grow from that, then that's everything.
Yeah, man. Great way to get this thing started.